All right, welcome back to Draws and Fades, episode 93. Preview of the Valero Texas Open at TPC San Antonio in beautiful Texas. I'm your host, Owen Vrabel, joined by my co-host, Matthew Miller.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back.
And producer, Nick Boss.
What's going on, boys? Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. As always, we are partnered up with Rotoballer this year, so make sure to win big in 2022 with Rotoballer.com's PGA Premium Pass. Are you ready to dominate? Rotoballer's premium DFS package includes exclusive tools, DFS cheat sheets, research stations, our lineup optimizer, and so much more to help you win big. For a limited time, get your PGA Premium Pass for 50% off. Use promo code DNF10 for another 10% discount. Just visit rotoballer.com/radio to sign up today and start rotoballing like a boss. So Scotty Scheffler wins the Dell Matchplay over Kevin Kisner and becomes official world number one ranked golfer in the world. Hits 3 wins over the past 2 months. So we'll give a brief recap of the Dell Matchplay, and then we'll get into course preview at TPC San Antonio, our strategy for this week. For betting, one and done, our top 10s and 20 bets. We'll be going through the odds list on FanDuel. Only a week away from the Masters. It might be tough to get excited for the Texas Valero Open, but we're going to try to find some winners nonetheless. And at the end, we might give a little look ahead at the odds for the Masters and see what we're looking at there. As always, follow us on Twitter at Owen_Vrabel, at MattyMills85, and at Draws_N_Fades. And if you're watching on YouTube, you will notice that we're joined by another very special guest this week, Andy Lack, who you can find tons of content from him week in, week out. Gives his weekly course previews on Sunday on his podcast, the Inside Golf Podcast, as well as his pick show on Tuesdays on the Inside Golf Podcast as well. Weekly appearances with Rick Gaiman at rickrungood.com on the Scramble on Wednesdays, and can find weekly written articles as well on Odds Checker and Rick's website. What's going on, Andy?
That was good, man. You got everything. I'm filling up quickly here, so I was really impressed that you got all of that in, man.
Yeah, it's hard to keep track of everything you're doing, man. So I'm glad we could cover all those. But yeah, you're a machine, content machine, Andy Lack.
Well, I made the decision that I want to do this full time. Like, I think a lot of people, most people aren't like, I actually want to make my entire income be golf betting. And I was crazy enough to make the decision about a year ago that I wanted this to be it for me. So yeah, it's added up quickly, but it's a lot of fun stuff that I'm doing these days. And it's an honor to be joined by you guys this week. Happy to be on.
Well, thanks for coming on, man. Appreciate it. And I think for most of the, at least golf Twitter community, everyone who follows you, I think we're all thankful that you don't have a real job like the rest of us, and we can get some good stats from you weekly. And that's why we're going to be, leaning on you a little bit this week, hoping for some good insight at TPC San Antonio. But yeah, I guess we'll run around the horn a little bit here for Dell Matchplay. I don't believe any of us were on the winner, Scotty Scheffler, but it was a relatively fun ride. DJ gave me and Matt a little bit of a run there, and I was lucky enough to hit Seamus Power group winner as well as Will Zalatoris, which is exciting as well. But I feel like I kind of botched potential cash out options / live ad options. I don't know. But, at what point did you think Scheffler was going to win this thing, Andy?
Pretty late. Like when it was the Final Four heading into Sunday, I thought it was going to be DJ. You guys had DJ pre-tournament?
Yeah.
It's a good pick, man. I was close to that. I had him in one of my one and done leagues, and I ended up going with Rahm and Xander instead. I think many people went with Xander, and that was a pretty disappointing performance. But I love Scheffler. I'm a Scheffler guy. I've been a Scheffler guy forever. I think I don't want to say the first time, but I was really strong for Scheffler for the Ryder Cup. I had a couple tweets that got a lot of traction on that. And I got in a lot of arguments with people in the actual golf media about this. Not just like the golf gambling, circle that we operate in. And I was just pedal to the metal with that one. And I went to the Ryder Cup in person and I watched him kick Rahm's ass, which was a great moment for me because you guys know I'm not the biggest Rahm guy. Yeah. And so for my guy, Scheffler, to overtake Rahm as world number one and win 3 times in his last 6 starts. Pretty incredible. I was on him for Phoenix. I wish I was on him for the other 2, but I guess the sky's the limit with him, man. And it's I'm sure maybe we'll touch on him a little bit more when we talk about the Masters.
Yeah, obviously probably pretty vindicating too for him to beat the guy who people were arguing for him to be replaced at the Ryder Cup, Kevin Kisner, which
perfect.
He made another, strong statement at the Dell Matchplay, which I think the commentators even, we don't get the best commentary week in and week out, but they did note that it does seem that Austin Country Club sets up really well for Kisner. Like he plays his driver a little bit longer there than he typically would, uses the undulations on the greens to help him with his approach shots. And we all know he can be lights out on the greens. And I think there is an aspect of him having the right mindset for, match plays formats, but the U.S. team is stacked. So let's not act like there's a spot just designated for Kevin Kisner, and Scotty Scheffler clearly was deserving of making the Ryder Cup team.
Yeah. And you got to put Burns on too now.
Yep. Yeah. And now he's fucking world number 1.
Yeah.
So.
And Zalatoris too, right? I guess you take off Harris English, but I think the English spot is more deserving for Burns or Zalatoris and Kisner, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, no, I mean, because I actually was talking about during that time about Burns being a potential dark horse to make the team, because over the past year and a half, he's been phenomenal. And now him and Scheffler both having 3 wins. Scheffler's coming into just fast and furious here in the last couple months. But yeah, there's just so much talent on the U.S. side that there's always going to be a debate, I think, on who deserves to get those last few spots. But yeah, and Matt, I just wanted to touch on, were you worried at any point about Brooks winning last week and not being on it?
Yeah, that would have been
because you did touch on how you thought he was just going to kind of pack it in for the week and be looking to head towards the Masters. And then it was like, oh shit, Brooks actually showed up this week.
Yeah, that was a little, I would have been really upset if that happened because we've been on him so much. Just, knowing that he has a potential every week if he plays his game, he could win any week. That was a little concerning. But we got through it. And actually, the thing with DJ too, if he didn't get down so early, we kind of talked about this before coming on, but if he didn't get down so early in that match against Scheffler, I feel like he still had a great chance to win. He just put himself in such a hole, and he came back. He won, 4 straight holes at one point? He cut it to 1, and then he missed that short putt on 16 that obviously did him in. But he had a few early on that if he had just made a couple of those putts, I think he still had a chance to win that match. But Scheffler's been awesome this year. He's been so impressive. And it kind of just seems like the sky's the limit for him at this point. Obviously, he's world number 1, but feels like he's going to get a major, pretty soon. Obviously, they're hard to win, but he's been in contention a few times already. So I wouldn't be shocked to see him get one this year as well.
Yeah. Yeah. No, yeah. Brooks and DJ was the match that everyone was looking forward to, too. And then DJ – I was getting some serious cash out options on DJ Saturday morning, and they quickly kind of, I guess into Sunday, and I, didn't take them because I don't like to cash out on outright plays. But in hindsight, I kind of wish that I did because then he went down 5 quickly, and the cash outs were gone against Scotty. I guess before we move on to that, one other thing, you kind of touched on it briefly, Andy, but Xander, we were all on him. He looked like he had the best and easiest path to make a run this week, and just brutal. I will note you did mention this morning that Tony Finau kind of played his ass off out of nowhere and took down, his chance, but he loses to Lucas Herbert, and that really sealed the deal for him this week.
Yeah, so the Finau match was by far the best match that Xander played, and he ended up losing that one. He was terrible against Kanaya in the match that he won, and he was terrible against Herbert as well. It was a recipe for disaster when I saw that everyone was on him that week and he was the community play, because first of all, I think we've learned with the match play, it's a little bit of a crapshoot. And so when everyone starts saying, oh, he's got the easiest draw, and I was guilty of it too. Are we sure he has the easiest draw? I feel like anyone could beat anyone in this format at any time. The thing I will say about this is, to put a positive spin on it, probably going to get a good Masters number. Now, I don't, he didn't look good. He didn't really pass the eye test to me. He looked the best on that third day, but if you are of the camp of I don't want a buzzy Xander heading into the Masters, you probably got your wish, because I saw on Twitter a lot of people were frustrated with him and doing the Xander sucks thing. He's a
Yep.
joker, he can't win, all that stuff. So if you're of the mindset where you care about public perception and you want him to be flying under the radar and maybe catch a good number, you're getting your wish in that sense. I have some decisions to make.
Yeah, and the other thing is too is that all the other guys have now, like all the other big names guys, so to speak, are kind of playing better golf. Like Brooks and DJ, you're not going to get super. I'm assuming. I mean, we'll see what the readjusted numbers we get are, but I'm assuming you're not going to get great numbers on DJ and Brooks. No. Scheffler and Cam Smith playing well is going to. Like Xander's the guy that's going to like float down the board, and he's going to.
Cantlay's the only other guy that I could see ticking up a little bit. I have some interest in Cantlay. Cantlay was like 14-1, 12. Cantlay was like the best player in the world in everyone's opinions, and now a couple starts later, I think he's a little out of sight, out of mind.
It's funny how quickly that changes.
So quickly.
Like it's like monthly how a guy is like clear the best player, and now it's like always a fade.
Yeah.
Which is my whole argument. Yeah, which is my whole argument with Rahm the whole time, which is like everyone was like, oh, this Rahm guy's going to run away with this and be world number one. It's like, no, this is a revolving door, man. Like this is there's going to be a lot of guys that are going to come in. And you're right. It's probably going to change a bunch of times over the next couple of months.
Yeah. All right. So before we get too excited about all the big names at the Masters, we are in Texas this week at TPC San Antonio. You know, not the best field, but we do surprisingly have, I guess, more big names than I was kind of expecting. Rory is in attendance this week. Spieth loves to come here. So, Andy, if you wanted to give us kind of a condensed version of what you love doing, I know you're the agronomy expert and the course preview guy, so we'd love to hear what you're looking at this week at TPC San Antonio.
Sure. I mean, I think this is a pretty straightforward, down the middle PGA Tour golf course. I don't think that there's a lot of nuance involved with this course. I don't think that this is the type of course that has a distinct character, which I think makes it not just on the scheduling spot because it's the week before the Masters, but I even think if this tournament was in the middle of the summer, people would kind of be mad on it because it's not a super interesting golf course. With that being said, I think the formula here is pretty easy, right? You got to keep the ball in play off the tee. Right. It's the rough here isn't really that much of an issue at all. So you don't need to be super accurate off the tee. But the one real way that you can get yourself in a ton of trouble, as we saw with Kevin Na that year when he made a 16, is if you they have like these like rock forest areas where there's like rocks and trees and all sorts of junk in there. And it's kind of like desert golf in that sense. Like I kind of like TPC Summerlin and TPC Scottsdale as two courses that I'm kind of looking at where, moderate scoring conditions. This is not a pure birdie fest. It's not super, super easy. Like you're not going to win here at 25 under. The winning score is probably going to fall somewhere between like 14 and 20 under. But you got to keep the ball in play off the tee, hit your middle irons well. And, short game is, I mean, there's a lot of bunkers here, but the rough and around the green, the degree of difficulty of those shots are pretty easy. So in conclusion, I'm kind of looking at guys that they keep the ball in play off the tee. Good middle iron players have had some success on these overseeded Bermuda greens. And most importantly, like I'm not playing guys that are in the Masters field. I think Spieth was an anomaly. You look at it, 7 of the last 9 winners before the Masters weren't qualified, right? And we just had this situation with Spieth last year where he was just playing such incredible golf that he just kind of steamrolled everyone. Actually, he made every putt. Matt Wallace actually outplayed him from tee to green. So did Charlie Hoffman. But I kind of have my attention on guys a little bit farther down the board that aren't necessarily qualified for the Masters.
Love that. Because, yeah, I mean, looking at this board, I think you can get sick to your stomach kind of looking at some of the numbers under 50-1 and not get too excited about them, especially noting what you just said. That is a look-ahead spot. The Masters is next week. For the guys that are qualified, you would expect this to be kind of like a tune-up, and they're not going to be, necessarily going out of their way to win the Texas Valero Open. And the odds kind of stink. So there are definitely some, I think, names down in the long shot range that can be quite enticing. So I'd like what you said there, which I think certain weeks like this can be exciting if you do end up having a couple guys at some steep odds that can get into the mix on a Sunday. I will say, you said Spieth maybe was a little bit of an anomaly. You think putting is going to be a big factor this week?
I'm looking at guys who've putted well on overseeded Bermuda before. Like, these are the same types of greens that you see at TPC Scottsdale, at the Players Championship, at Innisbrook, at Austin Country Club. We've had these overseeded greens a lot recently, which is because a lot of these courses are Bermuda, but when it's in the springtime, the Bermuda is dormant and it's overseeded with this kind of POA blend right before the Bermuda kind of really gets to bake out in the summer. So I'm absolutely looking at guys who have had some success on these surfaces before. It's, it's a shame that Burns isn't playing, because when I ran the numbers, Burns is like just absolutely dominates on these types of overseeded Bermuda greens. But yeah, I mean, I would say this is like, it's kind of down the middle, guys. Like, it's not one of those courses where it's a major championship test where it's just all of the elite ball strikers and you kind of weed out the Kevin Kisner types, right? Because it's such a tee to green test. And it's not like the Amex either, where it's a piece of shit putting contest, right? Like, you kind of have to do a little bit of everything. I think, some guys like, Ryan Moore and Brant Snedeker and Kevin Streelman and, guys like that have had a lot of success here. So you don't need to be this like bomber off the tee, awesome long iron player. There is a little bit of putt luck involved, but it's kind of like a very down the middle course, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I like that. I'm definitely looking for guys that, at least in my mind, can get hot with their, mid to long irons and hit a bunch of greens and regulations in spurts and can, make birdies. And hope that they don't get themselves in too much trouble, because, certainly with long shots, obviously they're at longer numbers for a reason. They tend to not always play 4 rounds at their potential. But yeah, I'm definitely looking at some good iron players, guys that have played well on approach recently. And we'll see what that means as we get into the odds list. But Matt, did you have anything else to add before we get there?
No, I'm ready to hop into the odds. I think, I agree with most of what Andy said. Kind of looking at similar this week. So yeah, let's just hop right into it.
Let's hop into it then. So Rory McIlroy is here. And Matt, I think you've made a note of this, that Rory typically does not play the week before the Masters.
Yeah, this is his first time in 8 years playing. So it seems like he's just kind of trying to switch it up a little bit, kind of change some things around, his luck at the Masters. Yeah, Andy, you're a Rory guy too, aren't you?
I like Rory. Yeah, I root for him for sure.
Yeah, I find him very easy to root for. Do you like that he's playing this week, switching it around? I mean, I think it's multiple. I think it in some ways takes a little bit of pressure off him for next week, just in the sense that he kind of is playing this tournament this week. He's not like 2 weeks. Obviously he still cares about the Masters, but he's not there over focusing, and he kind of can go into it on Monday and just kind of have his week to prepare like he does any other tournament. Maybe it'll help take a little bit of pressure off him going into that.
I think he's trying something new. As you said, I think this is his white whale. And I think that, all of the elite players plan their entire schedule around peaking for next week. And there are a lot of different ways that you can do that. I think there's some guys that Phil Mickelson was a guy that always played the week before the Masters. Spieth is another guy who likes playing the week before the Masters. Brooks does it sometimes. Brooks likes to play the week before majors too. And then there's some other guys like Rory in the past, like Tiger, for example, that they think that their time the week before the Masters is better suited to be practicing on their home course. I think Rory just puts a lot of pressure on himself for the Masters, because it's the tournament that would complete the Grand Slam. And historically at the Masters, he's just gotten to terrible starts like the past couple of years. He shot himself out of the tournament on day one and had to play catch up. So I think he's probably looking at like, man, maybe I just got to switch it up a little bit. I'm looking right past him this week. I mean, I think DraftKings is a little bit of a different discussion If you want to play him in DraftKings, I think he's going to make the cut. I think he's going to play well. I don't think he's going to bomb, but he's never someone I'm going to consider at that number.
Yeah, I think it's hard to really consider anyone when they're under 10-1. So I mean, he is the favorite on the board. He's at 7-1 on FanDuel, and then he's followed by 2 former champions at the Valero, Spieth at 11-1, and then Corey Connors at 16-1. And then Hideki Matsuyama coming back from injury is at 17-1. And then, I mean, Abe Answer is at 21 and Bryson DeChambeau is at 24. So those are the 6 guys at the top of the board who are all going to be in the Masters. So I think it's pretty easy for me to fade them this week. Not necessarily fade, but I'm not going to be taking them in the outright market. I'm starting to get this feeling that Abe Answer is going to pull a Sam Burns on me, though.
I was going to say, you guys aren't tempted by Answer at all, because I've seen a little Answer buzz this morning. Like, if I'm picking one of the top group under 25, I didn't end up going there, but I probably pick Answer. I probably like him the most. Home game.
Yeah, we were talking before the show. I'm having a tough time not doing it because I feel this overwhelming sense that he is going to win this week now. And
well, then you got to do it, man.
Yeah, I probably will because I actually don't really love a ton of guys in the middle of this board. So I may just end up doing it because I have to. So, Matt, are you kind of on the same page?
Yeah, I mean, I go into the week thinking I'm not going to take him, but like every time we go through the list on this show, I just have a hard time skipping over his name and not being a little bit intrigued. I don't know. I kind of almost hope he doesn't win this week. I would like him to contend next week instead at the Masters. But yeah, I mean, of all these guys up here, he's the one that sticks out the most to me. I don't really have any interest in Bryson or Spieth. We touched on Rory already. Connors just played a ton last weekend. I don't think he's
in theory too. This is a nice course for Abe. He can be extremely accurate off the tee. Can get hot with his middle irons. He's not really been very good around the green of late, which is kind of scary. But he played well last week too. Took down Morikawa, which I thought was impressive. There's probably enough there. Yeah, there's probably enough there for me to go to Abe. I was leaning towards just completely skipping this part of the board, but after consideration,
we've gone to Abe with a lot less there than this week. So
no, yeah, we definitely have. Did you consider any of these guys up top, Andy?
Only Abe. Hey, Did you guys listen to the interview he did recently with No Laying Up?
No.
Oh my gosh, I'm shocked because you guys are the big Abe guys. You guys should give that a listen. It's good stuff. No, I think Abe was probably the guy that I like the most. I know he has a residence in San Antonio. I think I'm right about that. I don't know if that's his full-time place, but he looked really good to me at the match play. I mean, he destroyed Morikawa, and this is another golf course that he's been good, not great at. Like, I don't think this course is too long for him. I actually, they tend to dry out the fairways and water the greens here. So this course plays a little bit shorter. I ended up caving and betting 2 guys in like the 40 to 50 range that I just thought were incredible numbers that actually are playing the Masters. So I already kind of broke my rule a little bit. So I just didn't have room for him, but I think it's a good one and done spot. I think that's probably how I'll get my Abe exposure is one and done.
I like that. I can never wait to take Abe in one and done.
Have you guys used him yet?
I haven't used him yet.
I used him at the Amex and he played like shit. So
I will say I was planning on saving him for Harbor Town.
That's a good one. Well, I use Scheffler at the Amex, so it can't be worse than that.
Yeah, actually, I'm inside the top 200 in the Mayo Cup. So
good shit.
I need to bounce back because I've Henley and Kokrak since the Cam Smith win. I've been horrible, so need to get back on the right track. I'm not exactly sure where I'm going to go with that yet this week. But let's move down the board a little bit here. Mid 30s, between 30 and 50, we got a slew of guys: Siwoo Kim, Adam Hadwin, Keegan Bradley, Chris Kirk, Gary Woodland, Matt McNeely, Tony Finau, Jason Day, Kevin Streelman, Johnny Vegas, and Charlie Hoffman. So between 31 and 46 on FanDuel, probably get some discrepancy with these numbers on different books, but nice little kind of mixture of different players here. I think Siwoo looked pretty good last week. But I'm not really in love with this part of the board, Andy. So I'll kind of let you open up to what you're working with here.
I bet Siwoo 40. I'm with you guys. I bet Siwoo last week too, and I really liked the way that he looked, man. I mean, he went 2-1 and he kicked Bezadenhout's ass. He lost on the final hole to Hatton, and Hatton went 3-0. And I'm telling you right now, as somebody who watched a bunch of other groups, like if Siwoo's in the Xander group, he's advancing. If Siwoo's in the Spieth group, he's advancing. If Siwoo's in the Bryson group, he's advancing. I really like the way that Siwoo looked, and he's played great at this course before. He finished 4th here 2 years ago, the week before the Masters. So I just thought 40 was a good number on Siwoo, and I ended up going there. And then I bet the 50 on Tony Finau. Like he's 50 and Keegan's 30 and Adam Hadwin's 30 and Mav McNeely's 30 and Chris Kirk's 25. It was just a pure, like, what are we doing here play.
That's fair, because now he's kind of gotten to that zone where he continues to not finish well, not even not finish well, just not really play well at all. But I guess you saw a little bit of a spark over your boy Xander on Friday. So I think he can maybe ride that momentum into this week. So I don't hate that at all. We'll see. I mean, because Finau is going to get interesting because he ever since he got the monkey off his back, winning at the Northern Trust, like we haven't seen him really play well consistently.
Yeah, he's been bad.
Yeah. All right, Matt, you taking anyone in this range?
No, I considered Siwoo a little bit. I didn't get there with him, although what Andy's saying does make sense. I thought about Matt McNeely a little bit, but it's like I feel like he's a good fit for this course, but I just have such a hard time betting him at that number. It's just tough one for me to swallow. And I know, like, if he doesn't win or he's not in contention, I'm just gonna hate myself for going down and getting him at that number. So I think I'm just gonna avoid him as well. It's funny that Charlie Hoffman's up here because, I mean, he just loves this course. But
right, and it's interesting because I think this section of the board actually, is usually a pretty popular place for people to, make bets because it is starting to get in some, relatively juicy numbers on what usually is a good range of golfers to bet in. But this week it looks just a little bit different with the likes of Hadwin and Keegan, and even now Chris Kirk at 34-1, I think is kind of crazy. And Andy, I'm kind of surprised you didn't take your boy Gary Woodland.
Yeah, the best I had access to on Woodland was a 33, and I just saw the 50 on Finau and the 40 on Siwoo, and I just like those guys a little bit more. But no, Woodland's definitely in play here. He finished 6th at this course here last year. I have enough like exposure to Woodland, and like I'll play a ton of him in DraftKings, and I have him in like my season long. I think I'll survive, but I think Woodland, Siwoo, and Finau are kind of my favorites in this range. And Woodland's playing the Masters too. Like that was another thing. Like I didn't realize, but I guess Woodland's in the field for the Masters.
Well, good for him because actually he really has kind of turned it around recently too. So we'll kind of see how.
Yeah, it felt bad because I mean it looked like he was going to win the Arnold Palmer, and then obviously the bunker shot on 17 just killed him. But the eagle he made the hole before was incredible, and I'm like, oh my god, like he's going to do this.
It felt like a Gary's back moment, and it kind of just didn't happen. But he doesn't seem like he's very far away, so I'm sure I kind of think people will be indulging with some Gary exposure this week. But yeah, I guess I kind of just wasn't really super interested in a lot of guys under 50-1 this week, which maybe just the mindset I kind of took from the jump. Because I think even Johnny Vegas, Charlie Hoffman will be popular as well, but I can't really get there with those numbers on those guys. And I'm going to look for some better numbers on some different options. So over 50-1, we have Ryan Palmer, Brendan Steele, Luke List, Russell Knox, Sahith Theegala, Patton Kizzire all at 50 on FanDuel, and then Davis Riley, Mito, Ricky Fowler at 55, and then a few guys at 65, Stallings, Matt Kuchar, Bobby Mack, and Rasmus Højgaard. So I think this is where numbers start to get a little bit more enticing, and quickly we're into kind of bomb territory. So I'm probably going to take Abe Answer. So that probably will be my first outright pick of the week. But other than him, I'm going to go to Luke List this week. He's been playing some really good golf. I mean, and I'm kind of getting this like Jason Kokrak feel where maybe Luke List, after he, gets his W, kind of can maybe go on a little run here. He won the Farmers back in January, and kind of since then really didn't play well in Florida, missed a cut at the Arnold Palmer. I guess that was his only event in Florida, but also missed a cut at the Genesis, was underwhelming at the Waste Management. But, the model I made on Fantasy National this week, he came out as my number 2 golfer. So his approach game and ball striking has been phenomenal over his last 36 rounds. He's been keeping his ball in play for the most part, and he is long. So I think he can kind of get an advantage there if he is keeping it in the fairway, or, maybe not even in the fairway, just keeping it in play. And surprisingly, the rest of his game has, really improved. I mean, he's been much better around the green. His putter is always going to be a little bit of a worry. And I think he kind of take advantage of the par 5s here. And yeah, I'd like to start my week with Luke List this week. I was a little surprised to get there, but that's where I'm going.
Yeah, I'm taking Luke List too, actually.
Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was kind of a numbers play. I just felt like the number he was at, I felt like he could have easily been kind of lumped in with the lower range that we had talked about with, the Adam Hadwins and the, Chris Kirk and Keegan. Like Luke List got his win this year, which is more than, those guys can say. And he has been hitting it really well lately. He's first tee to green in his last 24 rounds. He's been really good with his irons. He's good off the tee. Obviously the putting struggles you mentioned, but, as we know, that's kind of the most volatile stat anyway. Any week, a guy can kind of just putt, average with the field and kind of take away, some of those negatives. So I thought it was a decent number, and I'm willing to take a shot at it.
All right, I love that.
I got a question.
Any thoughts on Luke?
Yeah, I like Luke. I like Luke List. I didn't end up getting there because I just have a bunch of other jabronis down here. But do you guys collude before the podcast, or do you guys genuinely not know each other's picks?
So typically we know a few, and then sometimes we're just gonna be hitting each other with some surprises on here. So
okay, so you guys probably text before a little bit and talk it over and stuff like that. But but you didn't know he was on List,
right? So we have mentioned some guys, and Luke had come up, but I don't think either of us knew that we were both going to go there. So
yeah, sometimes to be honest, I just kind of make the picks live on the show. Go into it and just kind of see where my brain falls.
I like that.
Sometimes the best. That's where some of our best picks come from. So
yeah, I like that. Does it? I feel like I imagine it's got to suck too when one of you guys is on someone and you talk about him on the podcast, but then for some reason one of you guys just doesn't do it.
Right.
Yeah. And yeah, well, what's also tough is if we're on 2 different guys and they're both in the mix on Sunday, and then you kind of, I mean, in order for your guy to win, you kind of don't mind seeing a bogey from the other guy, but we're always texting throughout the event, so you can't really say anything. You just kind of have to eat it, Yeah.
Well, you guys put out your own card. You guys don't put out an official draws and fades card. You guys each have your own card.
Right. We have our own
representing draws and fades.
Right. Exactly. So did you like anyone under 70, Andy?
Under 70, I bet Kazire at 66.
Okay.
9th here last year. He was good at the Valspar. He's been playing really good golf. He's gone 10th, 61st, 32nd, 22nd, 33rd in his last 5 starts. He's only missed 1 cut this season. I love this golf course for him. He's had a tremendous amount of success on these types of greens. He's one of the best. He's one of the best putters in this entire field on these specific surfaces. And I think he can win. We saw at the Players where he made 10 birdies in a row. I actually think he's a guy that can win this tournament. So I have Kazire at 60. And then I have a bunch of guys that are between 50 and 100, but they're I went shopping pretty hard this morning. So I don't know if any of these numbers are still there. I bet Kevin Streelman at 75 to 1. I've seen him as low as 42. I don't love him at 42. I do like him at 75. And I also bet Sahith at 100, and I've seen him as low as 50.
Yeah, I mean, we're on FanDuel right now. I'm running through FanDuel. Yeah, Streelman's at 42 and Thigala's at 50. So, I mean,
okay, well, I feel bad. I don't want to like give out numbers on the podcast that people don't have.
Yeah, but you know, you got him at the right time. It's kind of like,
yeah,
if you're snoozing,
because we'll get there. I actually missed a couple numbers on guys that I wish I had jumped on earlier. Because I mean, books kind of react pretty quickly sometimes on Mondays. So, I mean, we're recording 9 p.m. right now Eastern on a Monday, and the numbers have moved significantly. So, I mean, you got double the value on Kazire and Thigala, or not double on Kazire, but double on Thigala and Streelman for the most part. So, can't hate getting value. So I like that.
I'll pull up FanDuel tool so I can reference the numbers that you guys are talking about and give out some stuff that people still have. Like I got Mito at 75 and he's 55 on FanDuel. I don't hate him at 55.
Yeah, I've given some consideration to Mito in this range as well. And Russell Knox is on my radar this week.
What do you think of Knox this week?
I got so trigger happy like at the start when I just saw a bunch of numbers on guys I like. So I didn't end up considering Knox too heavily. I've played him a bunch. I kind of think of him a little bit more like I kind of want to probably be back on him by Travelers, right? But I think Knox is, I don't want to say that you're buying high on him right now, but he started to like drift away from that. He used to be like a 7K golfer, 6.8K golfer, 150 to 1, 120 to 1. And now you're starting to see sub 100 on Knox because he finished top 10 at the Players. So
yeah,
I don't know if it's a good fit for him. He definitely popped in the statistics that I was looking at, but I tend to go to Knox when he is closer to like 120 or 150.
Yeah, Knox is one of those names that when I make a model and he pops into the top 5, I get a little concerned, but that's kind of where he came in this week. I mean, his approach and ball striking numbers have been phenomenal. He's been great off the tee. He's always a green in regulation machine. He's been really good with his, mid irons to even longer irons and proximity ranks. He's been really good. Sometimes with him, I have a hard time feeling that he may win an event. I do like him usually in the top 20 market. So I may take a look at him there this week, but I'm not confirming yet because I do need to make a decision here because I am considering Mito as well. And I think some of the hype around him has definitely died down of late. And I think he's in a pretty good spot here on the board where, if this was peak Mito, everyone talking about Mito season, we would see him in the low 30s and not kind of where he's at now. So.
Yeah, which I love. Like I thought that 75 was a pretty fair number on him based on the ball striking numbers are still there. I mean, all the ball striking numbers that everyone fell in love with Mito in the fall swing, he's still doing it. He gained over, I think, 6 ball striking in his last start at the Valspar, and the putter's been marginally improving as well. So I love Mito this week, and I love that you're not having to buy on him at that kind of 40 and 50 to 1 range that we were a little bit ago.
Yeah. And I have to, every time he plays, I have to at least mention him. Ricky Fowler is in the field. He's at 55 to 1 on FanDuel. And I can't even say as much good things, obviously, about him as you can say about Woodland. Maybe there's a little bit of a spark with Ricky recently. I mean, he's made his last 3 cuts, we can say that. He's now also missing a lot of these bigger events. He's just not involved in them. So he does need to play well at these events. And I would hope he still has some semblance of confidence in there somewhere that he could win an event like this. But I was hoping, I'm kind of at the point now where I'm kind of hoping for like 80s and above on Rick, and 55 on FanDuel is not really going to get it done. So
he's not in the Masters next week, is he?
No.
So yeah, I mean,
second year in a row.
You could use that narrative. Yeah.
Yeah, it's sad.
I was surprised when he didn't even get into the Players this year. I was like, wow, it's.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
been coming, but he's really struggling.
He did pop for me in a couple of the things that I was looking at. I don't know if I see him raising the trophy, but I'm going to play him in DraftKings. Like he's finished 17th here twice, and in his last start at the API, he actually hit the ball really well. So again, like I don't see him winning. I'm not super enticed to bet him outright, but I'm going to play him in DraftKings and maybe throw a top 20 or a top 40 on him.
Okay. Yeah, and I mean we're not big DFS guys, so I mean, do you think will he be like a leverage player? Like will he not be that highly owned this week?
Yeah, 100%. I don't think a ton of people are going to play Fowler. I haven't looked. I don't have the pricing up in front of me, but I would imagine the guys that everyone's going to gravitate to are probably more guys like Hoffman and Kirk and Vegas, which are also kind of in that range a little bit as well.
Right. So, and it won't take much if Rick puts up a top 10 this week. Like anytime he's in the field, he's going to be looked at. So I kind of like getting him where, he's still probably undervalued. Well, not even undervalued. It's just you kind of don't really know what you're going to get with him. So you're kind of looking for potential ceiling play with Rick. But yeah, I mean, let's move down the board. I didn't really consider Kuchar. I know people are talking about him this week. But 75 and above on FanDuel, it starts with Doug Gim, and Denny McCarthy's in this range, Lucas Glover, Charles Howell, Lee Westwood, Dylan Fratelli. My boy Matthew Neesmith is at 90-1 right now on FanDuel. So I figure now that we're kind of over 80 into the hundreds and above, we can kind of just go back and forth a bit here. But I am going to take Matthew Neesmith because he scared the shit out of me at the Valspar. And I can't have him win an event at a really big number in a field that's not very intimidating. I mean, his approach game could just be so elite, and he actually putted really well at the Valspar too. So I don't know if that's going to be a trend or not. He's not typically a very good putter, but he gained almost 8 strokes on approach at the Valspar. And I'm a little bit pissed, is what I was referencing earlier. He was at like 120, 130 to open on the odds, and I just didn't jump on it in time, and now he's down to 90. So he was one of my first clicks, so to speak, this week. And he's just been my guy. I can't not ride Matthew Neesmith in kind of a lower level field event where I feel like his irons can do enough damage where he can make a ton of birdies. So I like Neesmith, boys.
Yeah, I can't say I'm surprised by that one. I know I got some frantic texts for you when he was leading at the Valspar about how you couldn't believe that you were missing out on it, and he was too bad of a number to add live, and you were kind of just praying he didn't win.
Plus, I was like just sitting there with a plus 650 top 20 ticket, which most people would just be very happy about having in the bag no matter what. And I was like, he's going to fucking win this week. And I'm not going to have it. He was 250-1 and I just didn't take it. Why?
It is
like,
so
why
funny.
Didn't I put $10 on it?
You took him so many other times before that. Yeah. Like it had to be 10 times over the course of the last year.
Yeah. So I'm ready to be disappointed again. But at this point, I'm back on the Matthew Neesmith Express. So do you have any thoughts on Neesmith, Andy? I mean, I feel like he's another guy that can pop in models just because he does have such an elite approach game, at least, with the analytics.
Yeah, I like Neesmith a lot for sure. I mean, I was super impressed by what I saw at the Valspar. Obviously, the iron numbers looked great. It was just good to see a guy like that get in contention because Neesmith was a guy that I think was very popular in DraftKings for a lot of guys. He was always on everyone's radar because the stats were so good, but he was always seemed like more of a better stats than results guy. And then it was, we finally got a situation where it's like, oh, Neesmith can win that tournament. And I'm not one of those guys that is ever like, oh, this guy's a choke artist. Like, I think those labels are pretty stupid in golf. Like we were starting to talk about, when the hell is Scotty Scheffler going to win? How many times? I remember after the Houston Open, like Scotty was in the final group at the Houston Open. This is in November, like not that long ago. And Scotty was bad on Sunday. And everyone was talking about how, oh, Scotty's, he's the new Tony Finau. He's never going to win. Sam Burns, before he reeled off all those wins, had a couple terrible performances in contention. So I'm more of the mindset that once you getting reps, no matter how good or bad you play is ultimately a good thing. So it was good to see Neesmith get in the mix. I kind of had a similar, that was kind of the similar reason why I ended up going with Sahith. Cause I just like, I like the fact that Sahith is contending. He contended at Sanderson. He contended at the Waste Management. And then the other guy I was looking at is my boy from Duke, Alex Smalley, who just finished one stroke outside of winning at the Puerto Rico Open. So Smalley was kind of the other guy in this range that I was looking at.
Okay. Yeah, Matt, 80 and above, fire away.
Yeah, I mean, I went deeper, so we going into the hundreds or?
I have one more super deep guy too. Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah. I mean, I have a few off the absolute reservation type picks. So, so yeah, Matt. I mean, feel free.
I went. I mean,
there's also a pretty big discrepancy on numbers between the books, so I think everything is fair game at this point.
Yeah, I've mentioned him a few times earlier in the year. I'm going to keep kind of riding him. I think he was 120 on FanDuel. Adam Svensson. I mean, he did not play well last week at Corrales, but I didn't watch a second of that, so I'm not going to hold it against him. We don't really have the full stats from that, so again, I can't really hold that against him either. But he's been pretty good with his irons recently. I mean, he's over his last 24 rounds, 14th in approach in the field. He's 22nd ball striking. I think he's a good young player. So I don't know if he's kind of been, contending enough to get a win this quick, but I do think that his game is better than kind of this number is giving him credit for. So I figured I'd take a shot at him this week. I like to kind of go down the board a little bit more and make it fun on a week that I'm not overly enticed to take, some of these top guys. So I'll be back on him this week.
Okay. I like that. I think once you get down here, it's kind of like pick your spin zone and try to ride it. So we kind of actually went over this guy and I didn't really mention it, but I am looking at Doug Gim for a potential top 20 type play. He obviously played well with the Players and got, finished inside the top 10 after we hadn't seen him play well in a little while. And I noticed he's only played the Valero once, and it was last year. He lost 7.5 strokes putting and still managed to finish 44th. I mean, not like a crazy good finish, but to lose that many strokes on the putting greens and still finish that well, if he can turn that around. I mean, he was good around the greens, great on approach and off the tee. Doug Gim's always one of those guys that I kind of have a soft spot for. So he is definitely on my radar for that potential type play. And then I think there's a bunch of like interesting young names. Like you mentioned Svensson. I think if you could spin yourself into thinking that Cameron Champ or Garrick Higo are going to kind of figure it out this week, I think they're pretty good numbers. And I'm pretty enticed to potentially take both of them because I just think that their upside is good enough to win an event like this. I don't know what you guys think about those type of plays, but they're on my radar.
Yeah, I mean, I think anytime, like you said, once you get down here, you're kind of free to pick whoever you want and just kind of try to rationalize it. Champ is one, so that gives him more credit than a lot of guys that are down here. Same with Higo. So, I mean, I was actually looking as well down here.
Did we lose Matt? We may have lost Matt.
I think I still got you, Owen, but he seems like he froze.
He's frozen. All right. So you've kind of run off a bunch of your.
He's back. We got him back.
I'm back in action. Yeah.
He's back in action. All right. We've had some malfunctions before where you're frozen for much longer. So good to have you back.
Good to be back. Yeah.
Andy, any other long shot plays you're looking at?
Could win.
Doc Redman. All right.
What's Doc Redman at?
He was 160 on FanDuel.
Okay.
Which I thought was somewhat interesting because he's starting to play a little bit better lately. I think he was 26th at the Players, 39th at the Valspar, which obviously not really close to winning, but it's much better form than kind of what we saw him at going into this year when he was terrible for a while. Seems like he's kind of getting his irons back a little bit. Again, it's tough to make the jump to win, but I think that he's starting to get a little bit more intriguing than he was, a few months ago.
Yeah, he popped up at the Players. I love Doc. I thought that Doc was gonna be like Corey Connors at one point when he went off in fall swing a couple of years ago, I guess it was now. The one guy that I have down here that I actually bet, there are a couple other guys that I'll play in DraftKings and maybe top 40s, but I bet JJ Spawn at 210 to 1 is the first bet I made this morning. He gained 2.8 off the tee and 5.9 at the Valspar. It's the best ball striking week of his entire career. And I don't think it was an anomaly. Like, you look at how he's been playing all year, and it's been sneaky good. And he's been kind of like percolating for a couple months now, where the ball striking's been getting more consistent. So I thought that was a pretty sharp play, Spawn, because he moved. I think someone else was hitting that 210 because I think he's down at like close to 100 in most places, which I still like him at. It's still a big number, but I'm in on JJ Spawn this week.
Yeah, he's 160 now in FanDuel. So, I mean, still great number. I like that.
Awesome number. Yes,
Yeah.
160 is a great number. And even like for a top 20, like I think he'll play well this week.
Okay.
Wow, you're kind of like you're kind of selling me on this,
dude. Hop on the Spawn train.
Yeah, I'm pretty easy to sell this week, but I like what I'm hearing. Actually, you seem very confident in that.
I'm really confident in JJ Spawn. I think Spawn's going to play really well this week. So throw a top 20 on him, and you can blame me on Twitter if it doesn't go well.
All right, I might have to ride that too then. I think Doc Redman's enticing as well, Matt. So I may be jumping on board with you with that. And then I have some pretty outlandish potential thoughts. Luke Donald is 250 to 1.
Hell yeah! Fuck yeah! No, yeah, it's a good pick, dude.
Yeah, I've wasted plenty of small wagers on Luke Donald to somehow make a resurgence and win an event. But I also think him as a top 20 option is a potential great play too. I mean, you're going to get a good number on that. We just saw him play well at the Valspar.
Yeah.
And his approach numbers are insane, actually.
Insane.
I know he's not playing, a ton of golf, but I don't know. And I think this is one of those events too that these, elder statesmen can definitely succeed at when they're playing in a field that is definitely not overwhelming at all, and there's not a supreme amount of talent. I think Luke Donald can contend this week. So I like that you like that, Andy. Beautiful.
Dude, I have him circled too. I didn't bet him outright, but I played him at the Valspar too. I'm definitely going to play him in the finishing position market on DraftKings. He's a number one player over a pretty large sample size in proximity from 150 to 175. He's gained over 6 on approach at the Valspar. Like, he's hitting the ball well enough to contend. So I have him circled too, and I'm playing him as well.
Okay. I have a couple more thoughts. I gave my girlfriend a list of names of guys over 120 to 1 and told her to pick one. And she did say Cameron Champ. So Cameron Champ might be. She knows how to pick a winner, no pun intended. Exactly. Yeah. She's like, I mean, how do you not pick Cameron Champ? He's just born a winner. I'm like, you're right. That's a good point. So Cameron Champ is going to be on the card as well for all the right reasons. Obviously, random pick from the girlfriend and very high upside. So I'll get to my last pick. He's been floating down into the bottom of the odds list pretty consistently now. A guy that I've talked about a ton, Henrik Norlander. He is 500 to 1 on FanDuel this week. That's crazy. I think it's insane. And I probably will, at the very least, throw a few dollars on that, plus a first-round leader play, because he actually has been playing pretty well in first rounds of late, and then completely imploding in the second round and missing the cut. He's missed 7 straight cuts, I believe. So if you're looking for any type of recent form, Henrik Norlander, in terms of a finishing basis, is definitely not going to pop on any model or do anything for you there. But we do know that he can get extremely hot with his irons. His proximity actually from 150 to 175 and even 175 to 200 in this field are both inside the top 25 over the last 36 rounds. And he's inside the top 20 in approach. There's obviously reasons why he's been bad. He's been horrible with his putter. He's not good around the green, and he can kind of get a little lost off the tee. But the number is insane, and I've had this feeling that Norlander was going to make a little bit more of a name for himself than he has over the past 5 or 6 months. But that's kind of my long shot, absolute off the reservation play of the week. So that's where I'm wrapping things up. Do you guys have any other thoughts deep down the board, or do you want to give a brief little snippet into the Masters and see what you guys are looking at the odds board there? Let's do it. I like the Norlander pick, by the way. He was in the winning lineup for me when I won the Mayo DraftKings, the Mayo DraftKings contest or whatever, the one that I won. When was that though? Sony Open. Really? Yeah. So he finished like T54 at the Sony Open, and every one of my other guys finished in the top 7. But Norlander making that cut won me $5,000. See, that's all it takes sometimes, Norlander. Yeah, just make the
Yeah.
cut, buddy. And they're also the top 20 on number on this.
Probably absurd.
It's gonna be absurd. So it'd
Yeah.
be like hitting an outright on a guy in the mid-teens. So
Yeah.
I like that. So we have given plenty of deep shots for the people this week, which I love. Andy gave his brief thought on one and done. Abe answer is probably a good play. I haven't really solidified any thoughts for that. Matt, I don't know if you have. Otherwise, I think we just kind of go into the Masters.
Yeah, why don't we dive into the Masters? I don't really have.
All right. I mean, I think our brains have kind of been floating there this week, no matter what. I'm kind of the opinion that they're definitely – I know Mayo talks about this a lot, that they don't really give you very good numbers to bet in the futures market, especially on the Masters, since it's only a week away. They're kind of just holding firm with these relative shit numbers on most guys. So I think we're going to see some pretty good movement on some guys. So, Andy, I mean, who are you eyeing? I guess, in the top 20 players in the world, and, you think you're going to catch a number on anyone. Obviously, Xander is probably the guy. But besides that, who else are you kind of looking at?
So I don't think I'm going to catch a number on him, but it's always been JT for me. I was going to bet JT at the Masters since December, and I like the way that it's shaping out for him. It seems like that JT was going to be like the super, super trendy guy, and then suddenly like Brooks shows the tiniest signs of life, and now all everybody's doing is fawning over Brooks, and now we got DJ playing well, and Rahm is always going to be Rahm, and stuff like that. So I kind of like the way this is setting up for JT. He was playing unbelievably well before the match play, and it's the match play. He ran into the machine that was Kevin Kisner. Kisner made like 9 birdies in that match against JT. So I still think JT's in incredible form. He's gone to Augusta with Bones multiple times, and I think having Bones on the bag for the first time is going to mean something. I think we've seen how with Scheffler, like having a veteran caddy, and I think it's going to help Scheffler a lot at Augusta too, because Ted Scott's won the Masters twice with Bubba. But I think having a veteran caddy on the bag, like we've seen how much it has helped. And I think JT gets graded on wins at this point. And so like the fact that he hasn't been winning, people are maybe a little bit down on him, but man, like he hasn't like sniffed a finish outside of the top 25 in like his since the British Open. Basically, he's just been really percolating, and the approach numbers are back. So what it's probably going to be for me, guys, is like 2 guys. It's probably going to be 2 elites. It's probably going to be JT, and I'm probably going to have to eat like a 14-1 on him would be my guess. And then the second guy is going to play the draft, guys, right? Like I think people underestimate with these major markets. They always want to bet into them early. Like you're going to get a number on somebody on Wednesday, because there's going to be somebody that's going to be forgotten and not getting bet on. And you'll see that dude drift up to 28-30. I think it could be Cantlay. So I have my eye on Cantlay the most, but that's probably going to be my strategy. It's just wait and see with the other guy.
Yeah, I mean, I love that. I mean, right now on FanDuel, there's 12 guys under 20, which
it's not
I don't
going to stay. Yeah,
that's not. Actually, no, it's more than that. Is it 15? Yeah, it's 15 guys.
That's
under
crazy.
20.
Yeah,
that's ridiculous. That will get readjusted first thing on Monday morning.
Yep,
and progress throughout the week. Also, like I was talking to Jeff about this on the phone this morning. These books are in such stiff competition with themselves right now, with all the legal sports betting and the boosts. Like they want our money. You're going to get a good number on some of these guys. So I have waited. I have 0 Masters bets, and I'm waiting till Monday morning to see what happens.
I love it.
Andy, I have a question for you. Maybe I'm totally wrong here, but I feel like we might be able to get a decent number on Rory come next week, because a lot of it, like DJ's trending in the right direction. Brooks is getting very popular. Scheffler obviously won again. He's going to stay up there.
Yeah.
I feel like nobody's really mentioning Rory. There's kind of this notion that he's not going to win the Masters now, and he's had trouble closing out events. I feel like he might slip into like the 20s, in which case I would be very inclined to take him.
I'm with you. Trust me, if it's like, I would totally rock with like a JT 14, Rory 22, call it a day. I would be overjoyed with that. I think this week matters. I think a lot of people overreact. I think people overreacted to the match play last week, and I think people are going to overreact to this tournament. It's interesting with Rory because I actually think that at Augusta, and I'll be curious to get your guys' take on this, I actually think they'd be more inclined to let Rory drift than Spieth drift. Like, isn't Spieth like 11-1 right now? He's been playing
he's
terrible.
12. He's 12-1. Yeah,
he's been terrible. You can't watch golf right now and say that Jordan Spieth is playing well. And Rory like just won in the fall.
But yeah, I think you're right though. In the U.S., Spieth, they don't want to give a good number on Spieth because he is one of the more popular guys, and that he will, if he's at a 25, so to speak, which I don't think they'll post that.
No,
but he would get hammered, and they would be overexposed on Spieth. So I think there's a better chance that Rory kind of goes untalked about and does get into a better number. I'm on the same page with a lot of people out there. I really, really like the upward trajectory that Brooks has been on. So I'm going to be very interested to see where that number ends up. But I think you're right. I think it's worth it at a lot of these majors to grab one of these guys that are going to be under 20-1. It's not our typical process week in and week out to be taking numbers under 20, but I think starting your card there is definitely worthwhile. So, and you can make a case for pretty much every one of these guys to a degree. And I like kind of where Brooks is at right now. So that's kind of where I'm going. And I think we did take DJ last week, but I was hoping that he may drift into a 20 range because we've seen that in these bigger fields with all the top players. He's kind of slipped behind a lot of the guys who have been hot of late. And so I don't know if that'll happen either, but it's going to be interesting because Monday morning and books may take a different approach, and there might be good numbers on a lot of these guys depending on where you look. So I think that's kind of the approach you got to take, is to find a good number on one of these top 15 players that are going to be. It's going to be a crapshoot to see where they end up, I think. But I'm also interested in Will Zalatoris. I think he's at 33 right now on FanDuel. I don't think that'll hold. I think we'll get a little bit better of a number on him too. I'm not 100% sure. We'll see. But other than that, I mean, you guys looking at anyone maybe a little bit deeper down the board that could be of value at the Masters next week?
Honestly, I was looking at Answer. What is Answer at right now?
He's 65 on FanDuel right now.
Not
I think
terrible.
if he doesn't play well this week, we're going to see him in the 80s.
Yeah.
And that would be enough for me to bite on him. I mean, honestly, I'll probably take him at 65 if he stays there too. But
yeah,
I think that I'm expecting that kind of drift if he's not like playing really well this week. Just because that's kind of where in like these bigger field events we've seen him at. I think at the Players he was like 80-1 or something like that, 85. But yeah, I mean, he's obviously played really well at Augusta before. He's in the final group. His first time there in that fall Masters. But
yeah. And by the way, guys, the Masters field isn't all that different than the WGC Memphis field. It's really not. In fact, there's worse back end talent at the Masters. Before we get out of here, I gotta ask, do you guys think Tiger's playing?
So I was just about to get to that because the only actual bet that I have placed, which I did, it was either after Scheffler won or Cam Smith. I took some winnings, and one of my locals had a 90-1 on Tiger just sitting there, and I took it. I think he's playing. I really do. He keeps things under wraps pretty well, and I think anyone who thinks they know what he's going to do probably is bullshitting. But I don't know. I think he's a freak of nature. Like he's healed from injuries all throughout his career. He's played hurt, and I think he's going to get up for these big events. And he may not be 100%, but I think he's probably closer to being ready than we think. And I think regardless if he plays at the Masters, I really hope he does, obviously. But I think we're going to see him very soon, definitely at St. Andrews. So I think Tiger's arrival on the tour is like coming back soon. So I'm kind of excited for that.
It seems like he's going to play at this point. I know.
I agree.
That's momentum, and it kind of feels like he is going to.
Yeah.
I agree. And like hand up on this one, guys. Like I said, I did not see it at all. Like
yeah,
I
you
was,
did. That's right.
I was
right.
firmly like, I do not see it. Like back injuries, like that is a bit of a bridge too far for me. And I also don't think that he is going to, from what I've heard, he's going to go down to Augusta this week. And I think he's going to play a practice round or two and see how he feels. Right. And I don't think that he's going to play if he doesn't think he can win. So it's kind of like the situation where it's almost like he's either not going to play, but if he does play, he'll make the cut and play well. Right. So it's like, it's tough because he either doesn't play at all, but then if he does play, like, I don't think he would be playing if he wasn't extremely confident, because I don't think he's at the stage of his career where he's not going to, like, he doesn't view himself as a ceremonial golfer. Like, he's not going to go out and embarrass himself. Like, if he's there, he's there to win. Right.
Yep.
So
100%.
Yeah, I think that would piss him off more than not playing. Like going there and blowing up and being like, oh, I'm
still hurt. Like whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's not going to pull that. If he thinks he's good enough to play and win, he's going to play, which obviously always excites me because I think Tiger's confidence levels through the roof pretty much regardless. So if he steps onto that first tee, I'm going to be pumped. So
that's going to be wild. That would be something.
That would be a scene. So I think we got a lot to look forward to next week. Obviously, we'll see what happens this week. Andy, thank you definitely for coming on, man. We'll definitely see what your final card ends up looking like. Obviously, you can follow Andy at AdPlac Sports, Andy?
ADP Lack.
ADP Lack Sports, yeah. So that's his Twitter handle. Give his podcast a listen. I think that's a great place to start most of your weeks, guys. So at Inside Golf, the Inside Golf podcast. And, give Andy a read on Odds Checker and wherever you can find Andy's content. It's always a good time to have you on, man. So appreciate it.
Anytime, guys. Yeah, it was a blast, and we will we'll hit the link soon as well.
Absolutely, yeah. I forgot to mention that to the people that I did take Andy down in a match play setting at his home course, El Caballero, out here in Los Angeles. So he was giving me 6 strokes aside. So we'll start there. But, that was a good time, man. So I appreciate it. We'll have you on again soon, and good luck this week.
Awesome, man. Thanks, guys. Talk soon.
No problem.
Thanks,
have a good one.